Classes in session.
How you doing? And welcome to Unlearn 16 Classes in Session. Guys, you just get me today. That's it. Just me all by myself. um I I put forward a TikTok not too long ago, actually a couple days ago. And it was sort of I don't know if tribute's not the right word, but it was a reflection on something one of a very good friend of mine has gone through. And I want to address that today. And I have to address it softly because this platform is very odd about the words you can say and how you can say them. And, things that obviously get taken down or whatever. I mean, I don't make money, so that's not my issue. My issue is, how do we have hard conversations about incredibly important subject matter when I'm not allowed to use the words that you need to use to talk about the issue? So today I'm going to talk about DV. And yes, I am using the acronym. Okay. So we're going to be talking about violence that happens against any person. Particularly, I'm going to focus obviously on women because it's the story I want to share. But any person within the privacy of a home, because I think it's the privacy part, it's the seclusion, it's the exclusion aspect that we don't talk enough about in our society. And I also think the more things that I hear and the more stories that people, specifically women, tell me, the more of these stories that I hear, the seclusion and the exclusion is the number one factor. So you know what's sort of can be pervasive, can break through those walls? This social media. And when I was having a conversation with my friend, I can give her a pseudonym. We can call her Alex. I was having a conversation with I don't know an Alex, so that's why I chose Alex. I was having a conversation with Alex about what she's been through. The number one thing that she spoke about was this notion of isolation. But, and here's the key, that social media had the power to cut through that, even if for just a moment, even if just for a crack in the window or in the facade, right? It allows an individual that might be at home, that might be, excluded from friends and family, because we all know that's the first step in that level of control is, how do I get them away from their friends and family? How do I control every aspect of where they go? And then, how do I control what they think? Because if I can control their influences, if I can control who they speak to, then in essence, I can control what they think. And if I can control what they think, then I can continuously, as perpetrators do, perpetuate and instill violence. And when I talk about that, I mean emotional. Okay. I mean mental. And obviously, I mean physical. The only difference with the latter is when you have something that's that externally tangible, sometimes that's the only thing that can really trigger a person, right? Because everything else can be so easily hidden. Not that you can't lie about how you got a black eye or how this happened or whatever. You can, and women do. But it's easier to hide and to isolate and to limit conversations about anything mental or emotionally damaging. And again, you guys might think I'm talking around language here. I'm talking around language here so that this video gets, as much attention as it can get, rather than being, oh, she used that terminology. You can't use SA. You can't use DV. None of those terms can we use anymore. You can't use the R word. All those terms are off the table. And I've never quite understood why they're off the table. I guess they're off the table so they can't be used to victimize, so they can't be used to threaten, so they can't be used in that way. But for the love of God, when you take those terms off the table, how are we supposed to say the thing and be aware of the thing? And here's the key, not be ashamed of the thing that we're telling all these women not to be ashamed of and come forward with, right? So Alex was in this relationship for years and years. She has 3 kids, not with him. This was a post-divorce. And these 3 kids are fantastic. And from what I know, they were always sort of shielded from a lot of this. But this happened over a long period of time. And there was many points that I spoke to her and she'd say, this is what happened, or this is what he said, or this is what, and I would say, you got to go, come here. You got to go. You got to send him out. You got to. And here's, I really wanted to have this conversation. People think I'm having this conversation to just be like, stop all of this, make sure there's, to sort of highlight what that woman goes through. I can't highlight, I can tell you snippets of what Alex went through, but that's not my story. I'm here to admit and to own and try to figure out where I failed, where I judged, where I didn't support, where I didn't reinsert myself to the best of my where I got frustrated because I didn't think she was doing what I thought she should have done. There, I said it. I said it. Because I'm saying that for a bunch of reasons. Because when Alex finally told me I could tell this story, obviously, no names, no specifics, all of those things, so I'm not putting anybody else in harm's way. But when I can tell you this story to this degree, I said, why now? And she said, well, because I've gone through enough therapy and I've gotten enough help and I've talked about it enough to no longer have shame. And I went, holy, what do you mean? And she said, well, when somebody does something like that to you, especially when you have kids, even if you don't, and you go back the first time you decide to walk back into that house, or you don't call the police, or you don't, whatever. She's like, that's when this element of shame sort of the foundation was laid. And as the foundation was laid, the next time happened, you're like, well, I didn't do anything last time. And since I didn't do anything last time, how am I supposed to do something this time? And it didn't seem to escalate. So if it was okay then I kind of tacitly said that it was okay. And then this time, and you do that enough, and all of a sudden you have a list of crap in your soul you shouldn't put up with, in your soul is wrong, in your soul is criminal, yet you have tacitly said it. And again, I don't believe this, but this is how she described it. You've tacitly accepted it. Back in. And she goes, and it wasn't just about me, it was about my kids. So not only do I have shame about what I allowed to happen to me, I have shame about what I allowed to happen around my kids. So I did my first TikTok pissed, angry, talking about, how dare we as a society close an eye to this? How she's going through all this stuff with the police. And get this, if you haven't seen the TikTok, get this. So he's being charged, and apparently it takes a very long time. By the way, there's video footage. Let me say that again. There is video footage. And the court case is going on and on and on and on, constantly asking for continuances. You can't do this. You can't blah, blah, blah. I want to hear their last. So she got a plea bargain offer from the defense attorney. Want to hear what it was? I almost can't say it without wanting to throw my computer across the room. Here's what it was. We ask you to drop all the charges, and we will promise. I don't know if they use the word promise. We will promise. We will ensure that he will be an upstanding citizen and a good boy. Guys, just out of curiosity, Is that all we have to do in our legal system? Or does it just pertain? Like the fact that this was even a I understand defense attorneys are supposed to battle for their clients, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But negating everything? Again, video evidence, negating everything and saying he's going to be a good boy? Are you? And then I'm thinking, do we do this with anything else? If this wasn't an at-home circumstance, do we do this? I don't know. I mean, there's a genuine question. Somebody breaks into the bank, steals money, doesn't make any restitution. By the way, there's no restitution when you physically harm somebody, apparently. I mean, there's civil cases, but I've taken the money, broken into the bank, taken the money, spent the money, and I get my lawyer to go to the bank and say, he'll be a good boy? Is that a part of anything? Or have we relegated, and relegated is just probably the wrong word because I think it's always been that way. Have we built into our society that the idea that the violence that goes on inside a household is, first of all, and I'm going to say this because I think this is legally, culturally, historically accurate, it was none of our business, right? Let's all embrace the fact that children and women are historically men's property. That children and women were such property that the man of the house could do whatever he deemed appropriate to teach, to train, to keep his household in order. I hate that word, in order. Okay, so we're not too far off from that. So when I say that when people talk about how there's no sort of ramifications of racial injustice or sexist injustice or homophobia or all that, and they say, well, now the law stipulates, so what are you complaining about? It's fine. No, because the layover, the hangover, the ripple effect of those being true, and by the way, we're not talking that long ago. We're not talking that long ago where this was the case. Rule of thumb, everybody knows this, right? You can harm your wife, your child, as long as you don't leave a mark on them wider than your thumb. Look, all sorts of disgusting pieces of history. And it's illegal, sure, but now what? Now we have podcasters and Twitter people, call it X if you want, I don't care what you call it, TikTokers even, stipulating, okay, but sure, that was the end of the story, but what did she do? Right? And if we don't know the full story, how can we? Which has always been the case for SA and how we sort of facilitate and limit the impacts of what happens in those court cases. Well, it's just him and her. And if it's just him and her, it's he said, she said. And it doesn't matter about what the kit found, because what the kit found can all be talked away because they really like 50 Shades of Grey. Right? So many different avenues to weasel your way around. So many different alleyways to go down. But then I remember this about our culture. We are still parents are still legally allowed to use corporal punishment against their children. In Ontario, well, in Canada, I believe, and I don't want to get these numbers wrong, but I believe between the ages of 3 and 12. What are we doing? I'm sorry. I have said it's not okay to a full-grown adult. It is not okay to harm a full-grown adult, but our legal system in this country says, yeah, but your kids are still yours. See, that's the foundational garbage I'm still talking about. Because if you can't parent your child without this, now it's supposed to be an open hand and you're not supposed to leave a mark and you're not supposed to, there's all of these different, right? What? We are still a society that hasn't completely and utterly put any violence that goes on onto criminal activity. And you will hear people say, it's the parents' right to train. It is the parents' right to, it's the exact same argument that people are still using to facilitate or to support the actions that they exhibit in behind closed doors. So after this, obviously, Alex isn't there. The Crown is not accepting. By the way, the Crown would be the prosecution in Canada, is not accepting this plea deal. What a shocker. And then I'm starting to think, the only things that you're really going to court about then are they tend to be very, very physical things, because there's a picture, there's a video, there's a this, there's a that. You can't really, the rest of it isn't really so clearly admissible. And so she's sitting here now going, like, how long does this have to go on? Right? He's moved on, living with a new girlfriend, of course, who I'm sure just thinks Alex is the crazy one making up all of these ridiculous things, right? Goes off, has jobs, How long does this get to go on? And what I'm assuming is happening here, my assumption is, it is trying to be lengthened to the point where she's too tired to do any more. Where Alex said, I'm just going to focus on my life. I'm getting healthier, which she is, by the way. She is a healthy, strong, getting help left, right, and center superwoman. That I just don't want to keep going down that road, because that road isn't getting me anything but violated and nothing's happening. There's no sense of justice. Let me tell you this story. Not too long, a little bit after this whole thing, same person, her dog bit one of her friends. Is that a good thing? No. Do I think that the dog has been a party to a lot of this? Yeah. Now, the guy doesn't care, but he had to go to the doctor. You had to report it. This is what happened. She got 2 calls from, the pet police, whatever that is. It's the city. And visits to her home to ensure that they were keeping that dog locked up for a 10-day, because it needs a isolation period. That's like 4 different people sort of got paid to make sure that situation was done right and kept safe. Want to know how many visits she's got about the other thing? How often the police just swing by the other guy's house and just say, hey, just want to make sure you're still walking the line, abiding restraining orders. Just so you're aware, we're right around the... Now, some people would say, oh, well, Joanna, that's her. Is it? Is it? That's a genuine question, too. Because how on God's green earth are we supposed to keep these individuals safe when we're not allowed to keep an eye on the perpetrator, when they extend and expand our judicial justice system for an eternity? Because as we all know, a restraining order only means something if you have time to call the cop and get them to come there. And I don't know if you've called police very often. I have not, but I do know that the response rate isn't quick enough. And usually tragedy befalls. I don't even know if that's the right word. So I posted this video, and I've read story after story after story of women and their kids who have literally lost everything, fought through everything, literally started over, usually from the beds of hospitals. And he sometimes left the county, left the state. Here's the bottom. Are they chasing him because he, broke her nose? Are we getting some sort of extradition? How does that work? And then people say, Joanna, the cops have more things. Sure. Listen, I don't doubt it. Great. Fund it more. You know what the number one funded institution in this country should be? With huge oversight, mountains of money, mountains of education, mountains of psychological development and ties to the community, mountains of all of it, Child Protective Services. And I know some of you are going to say, well, Joanna, all of these things have happened. I get it. Let's also go back to what I said too. Mountains of money, mountains of training, mountains of connectivity to the community. If we shifted our funding to that, we wouldn't need a lot of what I'm talking to you about right now. Because this ridiculous notion that in my house, in my rules, what happens in this also, by the way, this also appeals or applies to any SA going on with women or with kids, right? Because everybody loves to say, oh, it's that group. We're all out here on all social media pointing to all these different groups that you think are seditiously trying to get at kids. When in actuality, we also know, statistically, 80% of those calls are coming from inside the house. Where's the money? Where's the funding? Where's the outrage? You know what I hear? It would never come from a healthy family. I promise you that. You know what I hear? My house, my rules. What goes on in the family stays in the family. What? Now, everybody's listening right now. We all have that story. And you know what perpetuates that story? You know what allows it to lay roots in a family and tear it apart and build adults that are incapable of reaching out or getting healthy? Shame. Absolutely. I just don't think we are active enough to say what is not okay in our families, what is not okay in our homes. And I'm going to get back to my role here because I know I talked about my failures and then I kind of left it alone, probably because it's still really uncomfortable for me to talk about. Because I remember hearing those stories from her. Now they weren't maybe as horrible as the last time, but every time I would get angry and I would make plans and I would try, in my head, and then I'd get so enraged and be like, what am I supposed to do? And then I do what nobody should do, which is back away. Okay, you don't want my help? Fine. Even though I don't know if I knew better then, I think I knew well enough to understand that the person going through that, I can't force them. I can't make it right for them. I can't force them. But by me allowing the isolation, by me not inserting myself anymore, she never said, Joanna, don't talk to me anymore. She made it harder, sure. But those heavy lines were never drawn. And yet, when you made it harder, and it was frustrating to me because all of my suggestions fell on deaf ears, and then I just see it happen again. And it was just this, I was doing this. And I didn't do what I feel like at this point I should have. But I don't know how many, I'm going to say what I think I should have done, but who crying out loud, who knows, right? Maybe if we had a justice system that was healthy, maybe if we had a culture that actually stopped teaching such horrific violence and shame and family business bullcrap, maybe we wouldn't be here. But considering we're here, here's how I would have liked to have gone back and done it. I would have tried to listen more. I would have tried to tell less. I would have tried to ask her what she needed more. I would have tried to forge alliances with her family. I would have tried to forge closer ties with her kids so they knew who they could call if they needed to call. Closer ties with her ex-husband. Rather than stepping away, I should have, and rather than telling, I should have just made it crystal clear that I was there. I was always going to be there. And especially to the individual who was dealing in such violence, that I was always occasionally going to drop by, occasionally do some videos, occasionally, see the kid. When I'm always going to be around. So you might try. The more that you try, just so you know, I can't move in, but I'm always going to be maybe a couple steps away. Maybe if I would have done that, she would have found a path out quicker. Maybe if I would have done that, that something could have shifted. Maybe if I would have done that, God, wouldn't it have been joyful if he would have just left? Maybe if I would have stopped making my own solutions such a be-all and end-all, maybe I could have truly heard. There's a difference between listening and hearing. Truly heard what she needed and given it to her, or her kids, or her family. Maybe all of those things, if they were better, if I was better at it, if I was less about me and more about helping and more about her, maybe all of that could have changed. So, I guess that's my lesson, the point of this particular podcast. Because I can't speak to what it was like to be in that house. I hope one day Alex, comes on here and really talks about it, because she has such brave, impressive, and quite staggering insights to share. And when she's ready, she'll come. But this is not about her, because I didn't live that. I just lived as an individual who didn't understand what to do and got frustrated when my seemingly rational plans weren't met with parades and accolades and following whatever it is I had to say. I think that I do that often as an individual. It's not just about this particular situation. This situation, though, is a little bit more dire, which is why I'm speaking to it. But I think if somebody were to say, Joe, what's the thing that you want to get better at, or you failed at, or I think it would be this. I see problems and I want to fix problems. And I assume in so many ways that I have good, intellectually based sort of conclusions. I have the best way to go down the road. And rather than asking for what somebody needs, I give them what I think they should have. Ooh, that's a hard one to change. It's a hard one to change when you see it's a failure. And it's a hard one to change because you're so ready to jump into action. That's true for a relationship as well, but you're so ready to say, okay, I can do this. I'll do this. I'll do that. Why? It probably makes me feel better, makes me feel in control. A little bit of therapy there. And if I'm in control, life's more manageable. But what I really realized from the conversation I had with Alex not too long ago before I posted that TikTok is I have no control of any of that. Which is why instead of me saying, what do you need? I backed away. I always answered phone calls. It wasn't like a severing. It was just like, I'm just going to be over here in this room till you figure it out. When you figure it out, come let me know. What a horrible, horrible, horrible decision I made. What a garbage decision. Now I know we can't be, you can't be everything to all people. I get it. But I'm pretty sure if somebody's important to you, you can make time enough to say, what do you need? What can I do? Rather than, this is what you do, or I got to walk away. If you're getting harmed, that's different. It's not what I'm talking about here. So for any person who's listening, who is in that position, I hope that you have friends or people in your life that will ask you the question, and if anybody has somebody in their life that is going through this, I need you to ask them, what do they need? What can you do? Rather than, here's the plan of attack. And when they're ready, when they're capable, when they feel safe enough, women are strong powerhouses of incredible fortitude. They will tell you, and in that moment, just be ready to help move mountains to get them wherever they need to go safely. And then move those mountains at the same degree to whatever they need to be done in the court system, whether it be criminal, whether it be civil, whatever needs to happen after that fact. So if somebody's in a situation right now, I hope you can tell somebody. And if it's on social media, it's on social media. You can do it in an anonymous way. Ask for something you need. And if you're a person who has somebody in this situation, don't back off. Don't back away. Don't get frustrated. Don't fail as I did. You stand in. You be present. You don't allow people to isolate you from the people you love, and you ask, what do you need? And then move heaven and hell to give it to them. All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I know that was a heavy topic. Please, in the comment section below, ask any questions. If you want me to look into anything, I will do my best in order to get more perspectives and more ideas on this incredibly important topic that we have to talk about oh so carefully. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I will see you next Tuesday. Same bat time, same bat channel. Dismissed.